The doctors gave him 6 months to live. At just 2 years old, Ethan Harrison had stopped smiling, stopped playing, stopped living before his life truly began. No animals allowed, his billionaire father had ordered, too dangerous for his immune system. But Madison, the new maid, saw something no one else noticed, the way his empty eyes followed dogs on TV. One Thursday morning, she walked in with a puppy wearing a tiny service vest. "Doggy!" The sound shocked everyone. Ethan's first word in months. What happened next, even the doctors couldn't explain. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. "I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison," Dr. Sarah Johnson said quietly, her face showing no emotion. "But Ethan's body isn't responding to treatment. We're looking at 6 months, perhaps less." Behind the walls of one of the largest homes in Oakwood Heights, Connecticut, a family's world was crumbling. The gated community with its perfectly trimmed lawns and luxury cars couldn't keep out the most unwelcome visitor: terminal illness. Nathan Harrison stood at his office window, his tall frame rigid with tension. At 38 years old, the tech billionaire had conquered every challenge life had thrown at him. Until now. "There must be something else we can try," Nathan insisted, running a hand through his prematurely graying dark hair. "Money is no object. We can fly in specialists from anywhere." Dr. Johnson sighed, placing her folder on Nathan's expensive desk. "We've consulted with every specialist from Boston to Switzerland. The aggressive form of leukemia Ethan has, it's not responding to conventional treatments, and the experimental ones aren't working either." Nathan turned, his intense blue eyes flashing. "I refuse to accept that. My son will not die before his 3rd birthday." Outside the office, Madison Taylor paused as she dusted the hallway table. At 25, the live-in maid had worked for the Harrison family for just over a year. She hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but Dr. Johnson's words made her stomach twist with sadness. 2-year-old Ethan Harrison had stolen her heart from day one. Before his diagnosis at 18 months, he had been a bundle of energy with bright blue eyes like his father's, and blonde curls that bounced when he laughed. Now, his tiny body was thin and fragile, his head bare from treatments, his eyes dull with pain and medication. Later that afternoon, Madison brought Ethan his lunch in the special medical room Nathan had created in the east wing of the mansion. The sterile environment looked more like a hospital than a toddler's room. "Hey, little buddy," Madison said cheerfully, setting down a tray with small portions of soft foods. "I brought your favorite applesauce today." Ethan didn't respond. He sat propped against pillows, staring blankly at the television playing a children's show. Madison sat beside him, dipping a spoon into the applesauce. "Just a few bites, okay?" "For me?" she coaxed gently. Ethan turned his head away, uninterested. Madison was about to try again when something on the TV caught his attention. A cartoon dog bounded across the screen, and Ethan's empty eyes suddenly focused. His small hand lifted slightly, pointing toward the screen. "You like the doggy?" Madison asked, noticing the subtle change in his demeanor. For a brief moment, a ghost of a smile touched Ethan's pale lips. Madison felt her heart skip. It was the first reaction she'd seen from him in days. That evening, as Madison prepared dinner in the massive kitchen, she gathered her courage to speak to Nathan. He rarely spent time in the kitchen, but tonight he was reviewing medical files at the breakfast bar while waiting for his sister to arrive from Seattle. "Mr. Harrison?" Madison began carefully. "I noticed something today that might help Ethan." Nathan looked up, dark circles under his eyes. "What is it?" "Ethan seems to respond to dogs, on TV, in his picture books. His eyes light up when he sees them. I wonder if maybe a therapy dog might—" "Absolutely not," Nathan cut her off sharply. "His immune system is too compromised. No animals allowed in this house. It's too dangerous." Madison persisted gently. "There are specially trained therapy dogs for hospital settings. They're kept extremely clean and— Madison, Nathan's voice was cold. I appreciate your concern, but I'm following the advice of medical professionals with decades of experience. A dog would introduce countless bacteria and potential infections. The subject is closed. Madison nodded, returning to her cooking. She knew her place in this household, but she couldn't shake the image of Ethan's momentary spark of interest. The next few days followed their grim routine. Nurses came and went. Machines beeped. Specialists made video calls. Nathan worked frantically from his home office, making calls to medical researchers around the world. Madison continued her normal duties during the day, cleaning the 17-room mansion and helping care for Ethan. At night, she attended her veterinary assistant classes at the local community college, often studying late into the night. One evening, while checking on Ethan before bed, Madison heard soft crying coming from his room. She entered quietly to find him clutching a small stuffed dog toy, tears sliding down his hollow cheeks. "What's wrong, sweetie?" she asked, sitting gently on the edge of his bed. Ethan rarely spoke anymore. The medications and pain had made him withdraw into silence. But tonight, he looked up at Madison with those blue eyes that held too much suffering for someone so young. "Want real, doggy?" he whispered, his voice raspy from disuse. It was the first complete sentence he had spoken in months. Madison's heart constricted. She smoothed his forehead gently. "I know, honey. I know you do. Please," Ethan added, hugging the stuffed animal tighter. Madison tucked the blanket around his thin shoulders. "Try to sleep now, okay? Sweet dreams." She turned off the light and closed his door partway, standing in the hallway as the weight of his simple request settled on her shoulders. In this mansion filled with the best medical equipment money could buy, with specialists on call 24 hours a day, with every advantage wealth could provide, the one thing this dying child wanted was something Nathan Harrison had explicitly forbidden. Madison leaned against the wall, her mind racing. As a veterinary assistant student, she knew about therapy animals and their benefits. She knew the proper protocols for maintaining a therapy dog's hygiene for immunocompromised patients. She also knew she was risking her job and possibly legal trouble if she went against Nathan's direct orders. But the image of Ethan's pleading eyes wouldn't leave her. 6 months or less, Dr. Johnson had said. 6 months of pain and treatments, and nothing to look forward to. Down the hall, she could see Nathan in his office, hunched over his computer. His sister Lisa had arrived earlier that day and was now sleeping in one of the guest rooms. The night nurses were changing shifts in the medical wing. Madison straightened her shoulders. Her job paid well and covered her tuition, but some things mattered more than security. Some risks were worth taking. "Want real doggy?" The words echoed in her mind as she walked quietly to her room in the staff quarters. By morning, she would have a plan. A plan that might cost her everything but might give a dying child his last wish. Madison closed Ethan's door quietly and walked back to her small room in the staff quarters. Her mind was racing with thoughts about the little boy's request for a real doggy. She knew she had to do something, even if it meant risking her job. The next morning, Madison woke up early. She had made her decision during the night. After finishing her morning duties at the Harrison mansion, she drove to the community college for her evening veterinary assistant class. Instead of leaving immediately after class, she approached her instructor, Rachel Williams. "Ms. Williams, can I talk to you for a minute?" Madison asked, waiting until the other students had left the classroom. Rachel looked up from her desk. "Of course, Madison. Is everything okay? You seemed distracted during class today." Madison took a deep breath. "I need some advice. It's about my work situation." She carefully explained Ethan's condition without revealing the Harrison name, describing the boy's interest in dogs and his father's refusal to consider animal therapy. "The doctors have given him 6 months at most," Madison said, her voice breaking. "When he asked me for a real dog last night, I couldn't just ignore it." Rachel listened attentively, tapping her pen against her desk. "That's a difficult situation. You could lose your job if you go against your employer's wishes." "I know," Madison nodded, "but I've been researching therapy dogs for immunocompromised patients. There are protocols to keep them clean and safe. I just need to find the right dog and the right training." Rachel stood up. "Come with me. I want to show you something." She led Madison to another building on campus, where the service dog training program was housed. Inside, several dogs were being trained by students. Rachel stopped in front of a kennel containing a cream-colored labradoodle. "This is Scout," Rachel said, opening the kennel door. "He's 1 year old and has already shown incredible aptitude for therapy work. He's calm, intelligent, and naturally gentle with fragile people." Scout approached Madison slowly, sitting in front of her without jumping up. His brown eyes seemed to understand the seriousness of their meeting. "He's perfect," Madison whispered, carefully petting Scout's curly fur. "But how could I possibly afford a trained therapy dog?" "We could work something out," Rachel suggested. "You could train with him in the evenings after your classes. As for the cost, we can discuss payment options." Back at the Harrison mansion, Nathan paced in his office while talking on the phone. "I don't care what the cost is," he said firmly. "If this Swiss treatment has shown any success at all, I want it for my son." He hung up and rubbed his tired eyes. When he looked up, he saw Madison standing in the doorway with his dinner tray. "Your dinner, Mr. Harrison," she said, placing the tray on his desk. "Thank you," he replied mechanically. "Has Ethan eaten anything today?" Madison shook her head. "He refused lunch again. The nurse managed to get him to drink some of his nutritional supplement, but that's all." Nathan slammed his hand on the desk. "This is unacceptable. I've hired the best medical team money can buy, and they can't even get my son to eat." "I'm sorry, sir," Madison said quietly, turning to leave. "Madison," Nathan called, his voice softer. "I'm not blaming you. He didn't finish the sentence. That evening, a black luxury car pulled into the circular driveway of the Harrison mansion. Lisa Bennett, Nathan's sister, emerged with several suitcases. She was a tall woman with the same intense blue eyes as her brother, though her hair was blonde like Ethan's had been. Nathan met her at the door, embracing her tightly. "Thank you for coming, Lisa." "Of course I came," she replied, looking around the marble foyer. "How is he?" Nathan's face fell. "Not good. Dr. Johnson says 6 months, maybe less." Lisa covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh, Nathan, I'm so sorry." Over the next few days, Madison observed how Lisa integrated herself into the household. Unlike Nathan, who was often consumed with work and research, Lisa spent hours sitting with Ethan, reading to him and talking to him even when he didn't respond. One afternoon, Madison entered Ethan's room to find Lisa watching as Madison read a story to the little boy. For the first time in weeks, Ethan seemed somewhat engaged, turning his head slightly toward the pictures in the book. "You're very good with him," Lisa commented after Madison finished the story and Ethan had fallen asleep. "Thank you, Ms. Bennett," Madison replied, straightening the books on Ethan's bedside table. "Please call me Lisa," she insisted. "I've noticed he responds to you differently than to the nurses or even to Nathan and me. There's something about you that he trusts." Madison smiled sadly. "I wish I could do more for him." For the next 6 weeks, Madison established a careful routine. During the day, she performed her duties at the Harrison mansion. In the evenings, she trained with Scout at Rachel's facility, learning how to maintain the dog's hygiene to hospital standards and teaching him specific commands that would be useful for Ethan. Rachel watched Madison's progress with approval. "You're a natural at this, Madison. Scout responds to you beautifully." "I just hope it will be worth it," Madison said, demonstrating how she would clean Scout's paws with special sanitizing wipes. "I've spent almost all my savings on his training and medical requirements." "Are you going to tell your employer before you bring Scout to meet the boy?" Rachel asked. Madison shook her head. "He'd never allow it. I'll have to show him how well it works first." At the mansion, Ethan's condition continued to deteriorate. A doctor from Switzerland arrived with a new treatment protocol, but after 2 weeks, it showed no improvement. Nathan grew more desperate, spending hours locked in his office researching rare treatments and calling specialists around the world. One night, Madison was checking her phone before bed, looking at pictures Rachel had sent of Scout's latest training session. A soft knock at her door startled her. "Come in," she called, quickly hiding her phone under her pillow. Lisa entered, carrying 2 cups of tea. "I thought you might like some chamomile. You've been working so hard lately." "Thank you," Madison said, accepting the cup. "That's very kind." Lisa sat on the edge of the bed. "You know, I've been watching you these past weeks. You leave every evening after your shift and come back looking exhausted. You're not just going to school, are you?" Madison froze, the teacup halfway to her lips. "I don't know what you mean." "I think you do," Lisa said gently. She reached over and pulled Madison's phone from under the pillow. The screen lit up, showing a picture of Scout wearing a training vest. "Who is this?" Madison's heart pounded. This was it. She was about to lose her job. "His name is Scout. He's a therapy dog I've been training. For Ethan." To her surprise, Lisa didn't look angry. Instead, her eyes filled with tears. "You're doing this for Ethan? Despite my brother's clear refusal?" Madison nodded, taking back her phone. "I know it's risky, but I've spent the last 6 weeks learning proper protocols. Scout is hypoallergenic, fully vaccinated, and trained to be gentle with medically fragile children. I've spent every cent I have making sure he'll be safe for Ethan." Lisa was quiet for a long moment, studying Madison's face. "My brother is terrified of losing Ethan. His fear makes him control everything. But I've watched my nephew getting worse despite all the medical interventions." She stood up and walked to the door, then turned back to Madison with determination in her eyes. "I'll help you," she whispered, glancing nervously toward Nathan's office down the hall. "But if my brother finds out before we're ready, we'll both be out on the street. And worse, we might give Ethan false hope only to take it away." Madison felt a wave of relief wash over her. With Lisa's help, her plan might actually work. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "You won't regret it." Lisa nodded, her expression serious. "When do we start?" "Tomorrow," Madison replied to Lisa's question. "I'll bring the training schedule and hygiene protocols for you to review." The next morning, Madison and Lisa met in the garden, far from the main house where Nathan couldn't hear them. Madison spread out several papers on the bench between them. "This is Scout's daily cleaning routine," Madison explained, pointing to a detailed list. "And these are the commands he's already learned for working with sick children." Lisa studied the papers, impressed. "You've really thought of everything. But we still need a plan for bringing Scout here without Nathan finding out." "That's where I need your help," Madison said. "I can handle the dog part, but I need someone to create a distraction when the time comes." Over the next 2 weeks, their plan took shape. Madison continued training with Scout every evening, while Lisa covered for her absences by telling Nathan that she had given Madison additional household tasks. At the training center, Rachel worked with Madison on specialized commands for Scout. "Today we'll practice gentle," Rachel said, setting up a child-sized mannequin in a bed. "This is especially important for a child as fragile as Ethan." Scout approached the mannequin carefully, resting his head lightly on the edge of the bed without putting any weight on it. "Good boy," Madison praised. "You're going to help Ethan so much." "He's ready," Rachel confirmed. "I've never seen a dog take to therapy training so naturally." "The question is, are you ready for the consequences if this goes wrong?" Madison nodded solemnly. "I have to try. You haven't seen how empty Ethan's eyes are. He needs something to live for." Back at the Harrison mansion, Nathan was growing more desperate. Madison passed his office late one night and found him surrounded by medical journals. His computer screen filled with research papers. His eyes were bloodshot, and coffee cups littered his desk. "Mr. Harrison," Madison said softly, It's past midnight. Can I get you anything before I go to bed?" Nathan looked up, seeming surprised to see her. "What?" "Number. I'm fine. I just found this researcher in Japan who's had some success with a new treatment protocol. I need to arrange a video consultation." "Of course," Madison said, noticing how thin and pale he looked. "Good night, sir." The next day, Dr. Johnson arrived for Ethan's weekly assessment. Madison was cleaning nearby when she overheard the conversation in Ethan's room. "His white blood cell count is still declining," Dr. Johnson said gently, "and he's lost another pound. Nathan, I think we need to discuss shifting our focus." "Shifting to what?" Nathan asked sharply. Dr. Johnson's voice remained calm. "To quality of life, rather than aggressive treatment. The medications are making him miserable, and they're not stopping the progression of the disease." "You're telling me to give up," Nathan said, his voice rising. "To just let my son die? I'm telling you to let him live whatever time he has left with as much comfort and joy as possible," Dr. Johnson replied. "There comes a point where we have to ask ourselves if the treatments are doing more harm than good." Madison heard a crash and peeked in to see Nathan had knocked over a chair. "Get out," he said to Dr. Johnson. "If you're not willing to fight for my son, I'll find someone who will." Dr. Johnson gathered her things quietly. "I'll be back next week. Please think about what I've said, Nathan. I'm not giving up on Ethan. I'm trying to do what's best for him." After Dr. Johnson left, Madison found Lisa in the kitchen making tea with shaking hands. "He's losing it," Lisa whispered. "I've never seen Nathan like this. Not even when our parents died." "We need to move faster with our plan," Madison said. "Did you talk to Dr. Johnson about therapy animals like we discussed?" Lisa nodded. "I caught her in the driveway before she left. I asked hypothetically about the risks versus benefits of animal therapy for someone in Ethan's condition." "What did she say?" "She said that with proper hygiene protocols, the psychological benefits could potentially outweigh the risks," Lisa reported. "She actually seemed surprised I asked. Said it was something worth considering." That evening, Madison completed her final training session with Scout. Rachel presented her with a certificate. "Scout is now a fully certified therapy dog," Rachel announced proudly. "You've both worked incredibly hard." Madison hugged Scout gently. "Thank you for everything, Rachel. I couldn't have done this without you." "Just be careful," Rachel warned, "and call me if anything goes wrong, day or night." Madison returned to the mansion and began preparing her small bathroom for Scout's arrival. She had purchased special pet-safe sanitizers, medical-grade grooming tools, and hypoallergenic shampoo. She set everything up carefully, creating a grooming station in her shower. Meanwhile, Lisa was confirming details of Nathan's upcoming business trip to New York. "You'll be gone all day Tuesday?" she asked her brother at breakfast. Nathan nodded absently, scrolling through emails on his phone. "The board meeting starts at 9 in the morning and will probably last until at least 4 in the afternoon." "Why?" "I thought I might take Ethan out to the garden gazebo if he's feeling up to it," Lisa said casually. "The nurse said fresh air might be good for him." "Only if his counts are stable," Nathan replied, "and not for more than 30 minutes. The pollen count has been high." "Of course," Lisa agreed, sharing a quick glance with Madison, who was serving breakfast. Later that day, a child psychologist Nathan had hired visited Ethan. Madison watched from the doorway as the woman tried various techniques to engage the little boy. Ethan remained unresponsive, staring blankly at the wall. "I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison," the psychologist said afterward. "He's deeply withdrawn. It's common in children who are experiencing long-term illness and pain." "Can't you do something?" Nathan demanded. "He barely speaks anymore. He doesn't play. He doesn't even watch TV. His emotional withdrawal is a defense mechanism," the psychologist explained. "He needs something that will motivate him to re-engage with the world." After the psychologist left, Madison found Lisa in the library. "Tuesday is our day," Madison whispered. "Nathan will be in New York. The nurse's schedule shows she'll be doing inventory in the medical supply room from 10 to 11 in the morning." "I'll make sure she stays busy," Lisa promised. "I'll tell her I noticed some expired medications that need to be sorted out. That should give you at least an hour." "We'll need to time everything perfectly," Madison said, checking her phone calendar. "I've used almost all my vacation days to train with Scout. This has to work." The two women spent the evening practicing their plan, timing each step. Madison would bring Scout through the side entrance near the kitchen. Lisa would wheel Ethan out to the garden gazebo, which had been set up as a clean play area for his rare good days. "What if he doesn't respond to Scout?" Lisa asked worriedly. "What if we go through all this and he doesn't care?" "He will," Madison said confidently. "You didn't see his face when he asked for a real doggy. It was the most alive I've seen him in months." The next day, Madison was cleaning Ethan's room while he napped. She looked at his thin face, the dark circles under his eyes, and felt a wave of determination. No matter what happened with her job, she had to try to bring some joy into this child's life. Nurse Pamela entered the room to check Ethan's vitals. "He's barely eaten again today," she said quietly to Madison. "I'm worried about his nutrition levels. Has Dr. Johnson suggested a feeding tube?" Madison asked. Pamela nodded. "She has, but Mr. Harrison refuses. He says it's too invasive." She sighed, looking at the sleeping child. "I've been a pediatric nurse for 20 years, and sometimes I think the hardest part is watching parents struggle to accept reality." As Madison finished her duties that evening, she walked past Nathan's office and saw him staring out the window at the sunset. For a moment, he looked not like a powerful billionaire, but like a terrified father watching his world crumble. In her room, Madison packed a small bag with Scout supplies for the next day. She checked her bank account on her phone. The dog training had used almost all her savings, but she didn't regret it. Some things were more important than money. Madison looked at the calendar on her wall. Tuesday. Tomorrow was the day. Everything was ready. The plan was set. The plan was set for Tuesday. Nathan would be in New York. Nurse Pamela would be distracted by Lisa, and for the first time in his short life of suffering, Ethan Harrison would meet the one thing his father's billions couldn't buy: a four-legged friend named Scout who might just give him a reason to keep fighting. Tuesday morning arrived with a pale sunrise. Madison woke up early, her heart beating fast. Today was the day she would bring Scout to meet Ethan. She had barely slept, going over the plan in her mind again and again. She heard movement downstairs as Nathan prepared to leave for New York. Madison dressed quickly and went to the kitchen to prepare his coffee, acting as normal as possible. "Good morning, Mr. Harrison," she said, handing him a travel mug. "Your coffee for the drive." Nathan nodded distractedly. "Thank you. I should be back around 6 this evening. Lisa has all my contact information if there's any change in Ethan's condition." "Yes, sir. Have a safe trip," Madison replied, keeping her voice steady despite her nerves. Nathan stopped in Ethan's room before leaving. Madison could hear him speaking softly to his son, promising to bring back a gift from New York. Ethan didn't respond. When Nathan walked past the kitchen again, his face was tight with pain. "Call me immediately if his fever returns," he instructed Madison. "Dr. Johnson is available all day if needed." After Nathan's car disappeared down the long driveway, Madison exchanged a look with Lisa, who was drinking her tea at the kitchen island. "He's gone," Lisa confirmed. "Nurse Pamela is doing Ethan's morning medications now. I'll go help her with the inventory at 10 o'clock. Madison nodded. "I'll get Scout. Remember, we need at least 45 minutes. Don't worry," Lisa assured her. "I've got it covered." Madison drove quickly to Rachel's facility, where Scout was waiting. Rachel had given him a special bath that morning and dressed him in a clean therapy vest. "Everything ready?" Rachel asked, handing Madison Scout's leash. "As ready as it can be," Madison replied, trying to hide her nervousness. "Remember what we practiced. Stay calm, dogs sense anxiety," Rachel advised. "Call me as soon as you can to let me know how it went." Madison carefully loaded Scout into her car. "This has to work, Scout," she whispered as they drove toward the Harrison mansion. "Ethan needs you." Back at the mansion, Madison parked behind the garage where her car wouldn't be visible from the main driveway. She checked her watch. 10:15. Lisa should be with Nurse Pamela in the medical supply room by now. "Come on, Scout," Madison said quietly, leading the dog toward the side entrance. "Remember your training." Scout walked perfectly by her side, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to Madison's racing heart. They slipped through the side door and down a service hallway, avoiding the main areas of the house. As they approached the back garden, Madison spotted Lisa through the window. She had wheeled Ethan out to the gazebo as planned. The little boy was bundled in a blanket despite the warm spring day, his thin face expressionless as usual. Madison took a deep breath and opened the garden door. "This is it, Scout. Gentle, remember? Gentle." Lisa looked up and smiled with relief when she saw them. "We're all clear. Pamela is completely occupied with reorganizing the entire medical supply room." Madison nodded and slowly led Scout toward the gazebo. Ethan hadn't noticed them yet, still staring blankly at nothing. "Ethan," Lisa said softly, "look who's here to see you." Madison brought a special friend. Ethan turned his head slightly, and when his eyes landed on Scout, something incredible happened. The boy who had barely moved on his own for months suddenly sat up straighter. "Doggy!" he exclaimed, his voice stronger than Madison had heard in ages. Scout looked at Madison, waiting for permission. She nodded and gave the hand signal they had practiced. "Go say hello, Scout. Gentle." Scout approached Ethan carefully, moving slowly until he stood right beside the wheelchair. He lowered his head to Ethan's level without touching him, waiting. Ethan lifted his small hand, trembling slightly, and reached toward Scout. "Doggy," he repeated, a hint of a smile forming on his pale lips. "His name is Scout," Madison said, moving closer. "He's a very special dog who knows how to be gentle with friends who aren't feeling well." "Scout," Ethan repeated, touching the dog's soft curly fur. Scout stayed perfectly still, allowing the touch. Lisa covered her mouth with her hand, tears filling her eyes. "I can't believe it," she whispered to Madison. "He's actually engaging." For the next 30 minutes, Madison showed Ethan how to pet Scout and give him simple commands. Scout performed a few tricks, sitting and offering his paw when asked. Each time, Ethan reacted with more animation than he had shown in months. "Can he stay?" Ethan asked, looking at Madison with the first real eye contact she'd seen from him in weeks. "We're hoping he can visit you sometimes," Madison answered carefully. "Would you like that?" Ethan nodded, his hand still resting on Scout's head. "My doggy." Madison checked her watch. They had been outside for almost 40 minutes. "We should probably go back inside soon," she told Lisa. "We don't want to tire Ethan out." 5 more minutes, Lisa agreed. "I've never seen him this happy." Just then, Scout's ears perked up. He turned toward the driveway, suddenly alert. Madison heard it a moment later, the sound of a car engine. "Someone's coming," she said, panic rising in her chest. Lisa rushed to the edge of the gazebo and looked toward the main house, her face drained of color. "It's Nathan! His car just pulled in." "What? He's supposed to be in New York until tonight." Madison's heart pounded. There was no time to hide Scout now. "The meeting must have ended early," Lisa said, already moving toward Ethan. "What do we do?" Before Madison could answer, they heard the slam of a car door. Nathan had parked and was walking toward the house. He would see them any second. "Stay calm," Madison whispered to Lisa. "It's too late to hide Scout. Let's focus on how well Ethan is responding." As if on cue, Ethan laughed, actually laughed, as Scout gently licked his hand. The sound was so unexpected and wonderful that both women momentarily forgot their fear. Then they heard Nathan's voice from the patio. "What the hell is going on here?" Nathan Harrison stood frozen for a moment, staring at the scene in the gazebo. Then his face flushed with anger, and he strode toward them rapidly. "What have you done?" he shouted. "Get that animal away from my son right now!" Madison stepped forward, putting herself between Nathan and Scout. "Mr. Harrison, please! How dare you bring a dog near my immunocompromised son?" Nathan continued, his voice rising with each word. "Do you have any idea what germs that animal is carrying? The infections he could cause?" "Nathan, wait!" Lisa began, but he cut her off. "You were part of this?" he asked his sister, disbelief in his voice. "You risked Ethan's health behind my back?" Nathan reached the gazebo steps and was about to climb them when something stopped him. Ethan had turned toward his father, looking directly at him for the first time in months. "Daddy, my doggy," Ethan said clearly, his hand still resting on Scout's fur. Nathan froze, his anger momentarily replaced by shock. He stared at his son, at the animation in his face, the focus in his eyes that had been absent for so long. "Ethan?" Nathan said, his voice suddenly uncertain. "Look, Scout can shake," Ethan said, demonstrating the trick Madison had shown him. Scout gently raised his paw and placed it in Ethan's tiny hand. The little boy giggled, a sound Nathan hadn't heard in over a year. Nathan slowly sank down onto the gazebo steps, his legs seeming to give out beneath him. He looked from Ethan to Madison to Lisa, confusion and conflicting emotions crossing his face. "I could lose my son to infection because of this," he said quietly to Madison, the fury in his voice replaced by fear. Madison stood her ground despite her racing heart. "Or you could give him something to live for. Dr. Johnson said his will to fight is gone. Look at him now." Nathan turned back to Ethan, who was smiling as he petted Scout. It was the first real smile they had seen from him in months. "The dog is fully vaccinated and has been specially bathed with medical-grade sanitizer," Madison continued quickly. "I've been training with him for weeks to prepare for this. His name is Scout, and he's a certified therapy dog trained to work with immunocompromised patients." Nathan remained silent, watching his son interact with Scout. The conflict was visible on his face. The protective father terrified of losing his son versus the desperate father seeing joy in his child for the first time in months. "How did the meeting end so early?" Lisa asked softly, trying to diffuse the tension. "It was cancelled," Nathan replied distractedly, his eyes still on Ethan. "The main investor had a family emergency." He turned to Madison, his expression unreadable. "We need to talk. Inside. Now." Nathan stood up and walked toward the house without another word, clearly expecting Madison to follow. Lisa touched Madison's arm. "I'll stay with Ethan and Scout. Go talk to him." Madison nodded, her stomach tight with anxiety. She glanced back at Ethan, who was happily showing Scout his blanket, completely unaware of the drama unfolding around him. As Madison followed Nathan into the house, she steeled herself for what was coming. She might lose her job today, but seeing the life return to Ethan's eyes made it worth the risk. Madison followed Nathan into his office, her hands shaking slightly. Nathan closed the door and stood silently for a moment, looking out the window toward the gazebo where Ethan and Scout remained with Lisa. "Sit down," he finally said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. Madison sat, preparing herself for what was coming. Nathan remained standing, his back straight and his face tight with emotion. "Explain yourself," he said, "from the beginning." Madison took a deep breath. "I noticed weeks ago that Ethan responded to dogs on television. When he specifically asked for a real dog, I couldn't ignore it. I've been training with Scout for the past 8 weeks at the community college where I take my veterinary assistant classes. After I explicitly told you no dogs were allowed in this house," Nathan interrupted. "Yes," Madison admitted, "I know I went against your instructions, but I've taken every possible precaution. Scout is hypoallergenic, fully vaccinated, and bathed with medical-grade sanitizer before every visit to a patient." "Patient?" Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Has this dog been around other sick children?" "Yes, during his training. Scout is certified specifically for working with immunocompromised patients. My instructor, Rachel Williams, runs the top therapy dog program in Connecticut. Nathan sat down heavily in his chair. And my sister? How did she get involved? Lisa discovered what I was planning a few weeks ago. She decided to help because she's seen how Ethan has been declining. Nathan rubbed his forehead. Do you have any idea the risk you've taken with my son's life? One infection could kill him. I do understand the risk, Madison said quietly. But there's also the risk of doing nothing. Dr. Johnson herself said Ethan's will to fight is gone. Today is the first time in months he's shown real engagement with anything. Nathan was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head. I want the dog gone. Now. And we'll discuss your employment status later. Madison stood up. Mr. Harrison, before you decide, please call Dr. Johnson. Ask her about therapy dogs for cancer patients. There are studies showing positive effects on both psychological well-being and physical health. I'll make my own decisions about my son's care, Nathan said firmly. Take the dog and go. When Madison returned to the gazebo, Ethan was still petting Scout, a small smile on his face. Scout has to go home now, Ethan, Madison said gently, fighting back tears. Ethan's smile disappeared immediately. No, my doggy, stay. I'm sorry, sweetie, Madison said, attaching Scout's leash. Maybe Scout can visit another time. No, Ethan cried, reaching for Scout as Madison began to lead him away. Please, my doggy. Lisa looked helplessly from Ethan to Madison. What did Nathan say? He wants Scout gone, Madison whispered. I don't think I'll be employed here much longer either. Ethan's cries grew louder as Madison led Scout toward her car. She could hear Lisa trying to comfort him, but his sobs tore at her heart. Scout looked back toward Ethan, clearly distressed by the boy's cries. I know, boy, Madison said softly. I know. After returning Scout to Rachel's facility and explaining what had happened, Madison drove back to the Harrison mansion with a heavy heart. When she arrived, the house was quiet. She found Lisa in the kitchen making tea. How is Ethan? Madison asked. Lisa shook her head sadly. He cried himself to sleep, then refused to eat dinner. He keeps asking for my doggy. She handed Madison a cup of tea. Nathan hasn't fired you yet, which honestly surprises me. Where is he? Madison asked. In his office. He hasn't come out since you left. That evening, Madison completed her regular duties, uncertain if it would be her last day working for the Harrisons. As she passed Ethan's room, she heard Nathan's voice. She paused, listening. Please eat something, buddy, Nathan was saying. Just a few bites. Want Scout, came Ethan's flat reply. The dog had to go home, Nathan explained. He might make you sick. Don't care. Want Scout. Madison continued to her room, her heart heavy. She began packing some of her things, assuming she would be asked to leave in the morning. Around midnight, Madison heard movement in the hallway. Unable to sleep, she opened her door slightly and saw Nathan heading to his office, still fully dressed. She closed her door quietly and went to bed. The next morning, Madison woke early and went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast as usual. To her surprise, Nathan was already there, sitting at the island with his laptop open. He looked like he hadn't slept, with dark circles under his eyes and rumpled clothes. Good morning, Mr. Harrison, Madison said cautiously. Nathan looked up, studying her for a moment. Madison, I spent the night researching therapy dogs for cancer patients. Madison paused, surprised. You did? Nathan nodded, turning his laptop so she could see the screen. There are studies from major hospitals showing positive outcomes. I also called Dr. Johnson at 5 this morning. What did she say? Madison asked, hardly daring to hope. She said she's seen promising results in some of her other patients. She was surprisingly supportive of the idea, with proper precautions. Nathan closed his laptop. I also found research about how emotional well-being affects cancer outcomes. Madison remained silent, letting him continue. My son laughed yesterday, Nathan said. his voice catching slightly. "I haven't heard that sound in over a year." Then he cried for hours after the dog left and refused to eat again. Nathan stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the garden. "I've been trying to control every aspect of Ethan's environment, thinking I could somehow force him to get better through sheer will and resources, but nothing has worked." He turned back to Madison. "I'm not saying you were right to go behind my back, but I am willing to try this experiment under strict conditions." Madison's heart leapt. "What conditions?" "I'll have a room near Ethan's converted into a clean space for the dog. It will have air purifiers and a sanitizing station. The dog will be bathed daily with whatever medical-grade products you've been using, and at the first sign of any infection or decline in Ethan's condition, the dog leaves permanently." "Of course," Madison agreed quickly. "I can work with Rachel to establish a complete protocol for keeping Scout clean and safe." "You'll be personally responsible for the dog at all times," Nathan continued, "and will need regular checkups to monitor Ethan for any allergic reactions or other issues." "I understand," Madison said. "Thank you for reconsidering." Nathan's expression remained serious. "Don't thank me yet. This is a trial period only. And Madison." He paused, looking directly at her. "I need to be able to trust the people caring for my son. No more secrets." "No more secrets," Madison promised. "Everything I've done has been for Ethan's welfare." "I believe that," Nathan said after a moment. "That's the only reason you're still employed here." Later that morning, Nathan called a meeting with the entire household staff, including Ethan's nurses. He explained the new arrangement and the strict protocols that would be followed. "The dog will arrive tomorrow," he informed them. "Madison will train each of you on the proper hygiene procedures. Any concerns should be brought directly to me." After the meeting, Lisa found Madison in the laundry room. "I can't believe he changed his mind," she said, smiling. "You must have made quite an impression." "I think Ethan made the impression," Madison replied. "Nathan saw how his son responded to Scout. That's what changed his mind." "Don't underestimate your role in this," Lisa said. "You saw what Ethan needed when none of us did." Nathan respects that, even if he's too proud to admit it. The next day, contractors arrived to modify a spare room next to Ethan's bedroom. They installed special air filters and built custom storage for Scout's supplies. Madison worked with them to ensure everything met the highest standards for cleanliness. Dr. Johnson visited to examine Ethan and discuss the therapy dog plan with Nathan. "I think this could be very beneficial," she told them. "Ethan's emotional state has been a significant concern, and that affects his physical healing as well." "I still have concerns about infection risk," Nathan admitted. "We'll monitor him closely," Dr. Johnson assured him. "And Madison's protocols are actually more stringent than what many hospitals use for their therapy dog programs." When Madison brought Scout to the mansion the following day, Ethan was waiting in the garden gazebo. The moment he saw Scout, his face lit up with a smile that transformed him. "My doggy came back!" he exclaimed, reaching out his thin arms. Scout approached Ethan carefully, gently placing his head on the boy's lap as he had been trained to do. Ethan stroked Scout's fur with more energy than he had shown in months. Nathan watched from a distance, his expression a mixture of worry and hope. Madison stood beside him, observing the interaction. "One infection, one setback, and this experiment ends immediately," Nathan said firmly. But as Madison nodded and turned to leave, he added something that revealed how deeply yesterday had affected him. "And Madison, thank you for seeing what I was too afraid to see." Madison's words lingered in the air as Nathan turned back toward the house. She watched him go, still processing what had just happened. He had actually thanked her. More importantly, he was going to let Scout stay. Over the next week, the Harrison mansion transformed. The spare room next to Ethan's bedroom was completely redone, with special air filters installed in the vents and sanitizing stations at the door. Nathan spared no expense, bringing in contractors who worked around the clock to finish quickly. Madison established a detailed daily routine for Scout. Every morning before seeing Ethan, Scout would have a bath with special medical-grade shampoo. His paws would be cleaned with sanitizing wipes before and after each visit with Ethan. His bedding would be washed daily, and his toys sterilized regularly. "These are the sanitizing wipes we'll use for Scout's paws," Madison explained to the household staff gathered in the kitchen. She demonstrated the proper cleaning technique on Scout, who sat patiently. "You need to clean between each toe and up to the ankle." "How often does this need to happen?" asked one of the nurses. "Every time before Scout enters Ethan's room, and again when he leaves," Madison replied. "And remember, Scout is only allowed in Ethan's bedroom, his playroom, and the garden gazebo. Nowhere else in the house." Nathan stood at the back of the room, watching Madison lead the training. He was seeing a different side of her, confident, knowledgeable, and completely dedicated to Ethan's well-being. Dr. Johnson visited 3 days after Scout moved in. She observed Ethan and Scout together, taking notes and asking questions. "How has his appetite been?" she asked Nathan as they watched Ethan throw a soft ball for Scout in the garden. "Better," Nathan admitted. "He ate almost his entire breakfast this morning. That's the first time in months." Dr. Johnson nodded, making another note. "And his sleep patterns?" "The night nurse said he slept through the night twice this week. No nightmares." "These are good signs," Dr. Johnson said cautiously. "I'd like to adjust his medication schedule. He might not need as much of the anti-anxiety medication if Scout is helping with that naturally." Later that afternoon, Madison found Nathan in his office, reviewing security camera footage from Ethan's room. On the screen, Ethan was reading a book to Scout, who lay beside his bed with his head resting near Ethan's hand. "I've never seen him so engaged," Nathan said without looking up. "He used to just stare at those books when the nurses tried to read to him." "Scout is a good listener," Madison said with a small smile. Nathan turned in his chair to face her. "I looked into your background. You've been taking veterinary assistant classes for 2 years while working full-time. Why not go to veterinary school?" Madison hesitated. "Veterinary school is expensive. My mother raised 4 kids on her own after my father left. I've been helping support my younger siblings since I was 16. Nathan nodded, studying her face. "Your instructor, Rachel Williams, speaks very highly of you. She says you have a natural talent with animals." "You called her?" Madison asked, surprised. "I wanted to verify Scout's training," Nathan explained. "She told me you worked overtime to afford his training, that you used your entire savings." Madison looked down, uncomfortable with the praise. "I should check on Scout's supplies. We're running low on the special shampoo." "I've ordered more," Nathan said. "A 6-month supply. I've also set up an account at the veterinary supply store in town. Anything Scout needs, charge it there." 1 week into the trial period, as Nathan still called it, Ethan showed remarkable progress. He began asking to eat in the garden with Scout instead of in his bed. He started playing simple games and even requested some of his old toys that had been put away months ago. Lisa began documenting everything, keeping a journal of Ethan's daily activities and improvements. She showed the journal to Madison one evening. "Look at this," she said, pointing to her notes. 2 weeks ago, he spoke an average of 10 words a day. Yesterday, I counted over 100. Madison smiled, looking at the careful documentation. "Nathan should see this." "Oh, he does," Lisa assured her. "I give him daily reports." "He's being cautious, but I can tell he's amazed by the changes." On the 10th day, Ethan had blood drawn for his regular testing. Everyone waited anxiously for the results. When Dr. Johnson called, Nathan put her on speakerphone in his office with Madison and Lisa present. "His white blood cell count has improved slightly," Dr. Johnson reported. "It's a small change, but it's the first positive movement we've seen in his blood work in months." "Could it be a mistake?" Nathan asked, unwilling to hope too quickly. "We ran the tests twice," Dr. Johnson replied. "It's not dramatic improvement, but it's definitely moving in the right direction. His red blood cell count is also slightly better." After the call ended, the three of them sat in stunned silence. "It could be coincidence," Nathan finally said, ever cautious. "Or it could be that Ethan's finally fighting again," Lisa suggested gently. The next day, Ethan asked to walk in the garden instead of using his wheelchair. Holding Scout's leash in one hand and Madison's hand in the other, he took 20 steps before getting tired, his longest period of physical activity in nearly a year. That evening, Madison found Nathan in Ethan's room, watching his son sleep with Scout lying on a special mat beside the bed. "I've been making some calls," Nathan said quietly as they stepped into the hallway, "to other parents of children with cancer, asking about their experiences with therapy animals." "What did they tell you?" Madison asked. Many had never considered it. A few had tried it with positive results. Nathan hesitated. "I also spoke with the chief administrator at New England Children's Hospital. They don't have a formal therapy dog program for immunocompromised patients." "Most hospitals don't," Madison confirmed. "It's still considered too risky by many medical professionals." Nathan was quiet for a moment. If it's working for Ethan, it might work for other children too. Madison looked at him with surprise. It was the first time he had spoken as if Scout's presence might be permanent, not just a trial. 2 weeks after Scout's arrival, Dr. Johnson visited again for a more thorough examination of Ethan. She spent over an hour with him, conducting tests and asking questions. "His strength is definitely improving," she told Nathan afterward. "And his mental alertness is remarkably better. I'm not saying Scout is curing his cancer, but he's helping," Nathan finished for her. "Yes," Dr. Johnson agreed. "He's helping Ethan want to fight again. That's significant." That afternoon, Nathan found Madison studying at the small desk in her room. Veterinary textbooks were spread out around her. "Am I interrupting?" he asked, standing in the doorway. "No, I'm just preparing for an exam next week," Madison said, closing her book. Nathan entered the room looking at the textbooks with interest. "These look more advanced than veterinary assistant material." Madison nodded. "My instructor gave me some extra materials. She thinks I should apply to veterinary school eventually." "Why don't you?" Nathan asked directly. Madison gave a small laugh. "It costs nearly $200,000 to complete veterinary school. I can barely afford my community college classes." Nathan considered this. "Your knowledge has been invaluable for Ethan. The protocols you created for Scout are better than anything the medical team suggested." "Thank you," Madison said, surprised by the compliment. "I'd like to help you continue your education," Nathan said. "Consider it an investment in Ethan's care team." Madison shook her head. "That's very generous, but I couldn't accept." "Think about it," Nathan insisted. "You have talent that shouldn't be wasted." 3 weeks into Scout's residency, Ethan had a particularly good day. He spent an entire hour in the garden, throwing a ball for Scout and laughing when the dog brought it back. His face had more color than it had in months, and he ate a full lunch afterward. Nathan watched from the window of his office, a strange feeling growing in his chest. For the first time since Ethan's diagnosis, he felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. Later that night, after Ethan was asleep, Nathan sat in his office looking at Scout's training certificate. An idea was forming in his mind, one that went beyond just helping his own son. As Nathan watched his son laugh while playing with Scout, a thought that would have seemed impossible just weeks ago began to take shape in his mind. What if they could share this discovery with other families facing the same desperate situation? The idea of helping other families stayed with Nathan over the next few days. Each time he watched Ethan interacting with Scout, the thought grew stronger. What had begun as a desperate attempt to bring joy to his dying son was turning into something that might benefit many children. 3 months after Scout's arrival at the Harrison mansion, the changes in Ethan were impossible to ignore. His appetite had returned, and he had gained 4 pounds. He slept through most nights without nightmares. Most remarkably, his blood work showed small but consistent improvements in his cell counts. "These results are encouraging," Dr. Johnson said during her weekly visit. She sat across from Nathan in his office, reviewing Ethan's latest test results. His white blood cell count has improved by 15% since Scout arrived. "Is that significant?" Nathan asked, leaning forward in his chair. Dr. Johnson chose her words carefully. "In medicine, we hesitate to use words like miracle, but I've been treating Ethan for over a year. This is the first sustained improvement we've seen." She paused. "I can't explain it scientifically, but his will to live has clearly strengthened." After Dr. Johnson left, Nathan called Lisa into his office. "I want to research animal therapy programs for cancer patients," he told her. "I need to know what's currently available nationwide." Lisa nodded, already pulling out her tablet to take notes. "I can start making calls today. Anything specific you want to know?" "Everything," Nathan replied. "How many hospitals have formal programs, what protocols they use, what results they've seen? I want to know why this isn't standard practice in pediatric oncology." While Nathan and Lisa began their research, Madison continued caring for Ethan and Scout. She maintained her strict hygiene protocols, documenting everything meticulously. In the evenings, she studied for her veterinary assistant classes, often working late into the night. One evening, Nathan passed by her room and noticed the light still on. He knocked softly. "Come in," Madison called. Nathan found her surrounded by textbooks, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, a pencil tucked behind her ear. "It's almost midnight," Nathan said. "You've been working all day with Ethan and Scout." Madison rubbed her eyes. "I have an exam tomorrow. Just a few more chapters to review." Nathan picked up one of her textbooks, examining it with interest. "You're very dedicated to your studies." "I want to do more than just assist veterinarians," Madison admitted. "I want to be one." Nathan considered this for a moment. "The offer still stands. I'd like to help with your education." Madison shook her head. "I appreciate that, but I need to do this on my own." "Even if it takes 10 years longer?" Nathan asked. "Think of how many animals and people you could help with the right education, sooner rather than later." His words lingered with Madison after he left. The next day, after her exam, she found herself researching veterinary schools online. The cost of tuition made her close the browser quickly. Meanwhile, Ethan continued to improve. During a session in the garden, he surprised everyone by asking a question that no one expected. "Can Scout visit other kids?" Ethan asked as he petted the dog's soft fur. Madison, who was sitting nearby, looked up from the book she was reading. "What do you mean, Ethan?" "Kids in the hospital," Ethan explained. "They're sad too. Scout could make them happy." Madison's heart warmed at his thoughtfulness. "That's a very kind idea. Would you like Scout to help other children?" Ethan nodded seriously. "Scout makes me feel better. Other kids need him too." Madison shared this conversation with Nathan that evening. He stood at his office window, listening intently. "He's thinking about others," Nathan said quietly. 6 months ago, he was so withdrawn he barely acknowledged his own existence. "It's a big change," Madison agreed. Nathan turned from the window. "I've been making calls to hospital administrators. Most are resistant to the idea of therapy dogs for immunocompromised patients. They cite infection risks, liability concerns, lack of scientific evidence." "What would change their minds?" Madison asked. "Data," Nathan replied simply. "Results. Documented cases like Ethan's." The following week brought an unexpected challenge. Madison entered Ethan's room for their morning routine and immediately noticed his flushed cheeks. "You don't look well, buddy," she said, placing a hand on his forehead. "You feel warm." The nurse checked his temperature and confirmed a fever of 101 degrees. Nathan was called immediately and panic erupted in the household. Scout was quickly removed from Ethan's room. "I told you this was a risk," Nathan said sharply to Madison as doctors were called in. "If Scout has caused an infection, let's wait for the test results," Madison urged. keeping her voice calm despite her racing heart. "It could be many things." Tense hours followed as tests were run, and Ethan was monitored closely. Nathan paced outside the boy's room while doctors examined him. Madison stayed with Scout in his room, worry etched on her face. Finally, Dr. Johnson emerged with her findings. "It's a common viral infection, not bacterial. Children get these all the time, even in sterile environments. It's completely unrelated to Scout's presence." Nathan's relief was visible. "You're certain?" "Absolutely," Dr. Johnson confirmed. "In fact, Ethan is handling this fever better than I would have expected. His body is fighting it effectively, which is a good sign his immune system is getting stronger." During Ethan's recovery from the virus, Scout showed remarkable behavior. When allowed back in Ethan's room, he refused to leave the boy's bedside, lying quietly on his mat and occasionally placing his head near Ethan's hand. "It's like he knows Ethan needs extra comfort," Lisa observed. The fever incident, rather than setting back their progress, actually strengthened Nathan's resolve. Once Ethan recovered completely, Nathan invited a special visitor to the mansion. "Madison, I'd like you to meet Dr. Michael Reynolds," Nathan said, introducing a tall man with silver hair and glasses. "He's a leading researcher studying the physiological effects of animal companionship on immune system function." Madison shook the doctor's hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you." "Likewise," Dr. Reynolds replied warmly. "Nathan has told me about your work with Ethan and Scout. I'm impressed with the protocols you've developed." "They're just common sense precautions," Madison said modestly. "Common sense informed by knowledge," Dr. Reynolds corrected. "Many healthcare facilities overlook the simple solutions you've implemented." Dr. Reynolds spent the day observing Ethan and Scout together. He took notes, asked questions, and examined the hygiene stations Madison had set up throughout the house. "What do you think?" Nathan asked when they gathered in his office later. "I think you have something remarkable here," Dr. Reynolds said frankly. "Ethan's case could be the beginning of a significant shift in how we approach pediatric cancer care." "How so?" Lisa asked. "Most medical research focuses on the physical aspects of disease, medications, treatments, surgeries," Dr. Reynolds explained. "But we're learning that emotional well-being directly impacts physical healing. What you've discovered with Ethan and Scout demonstrates this connection beautifully." "What would it take to expand this approach?" Nathan asked, leaning forward in his chair. "Research," Dr. Reynolds replied. "Properly documented, controlled studies, funding, and someone with the influence to get hospital administrators to listen." He looked pointedly at Nathan. "Someone like you." The conversation continued late into the evening, with Dr. Reynolds explaining how they might design a study using Ethan's case as a starting point. Madison listened, fascinated by the possibilities. As the weeks passed, Ethan continued to gain strength. His third birthday approached, a milestone Dr. Johnson had once doubted he would reach. The household began preparing for a small celebration. "He wants a dog-themed party," Lisa told Nathan, showing him decoration ideas. "Everything with dogs." Nathan smiled, remembering how he had once forbidden dogs from even being mentioned in the house. "Make it happen. Whatever he wants." Madison found Nathan in the garden one evening, watching Ethan play with Scout from a distance. 6 months, Nathan said without turning around. "Sir?" Madison asked, not understanding. "When you brought Scout here, Dr. Johnson had given Ethan 6 months to live." Nathan's voice was quiet. "That was almost 4 months ago. Now she's talking about remission as a possibility." Madison stood silently beside him, watching Ethan throw a ball for Scout. "I've made a decision," Nathan continued. "After Ethan's birthday, I'm going to establish a foundation focused on animal therapy for critically ill children. Dr. Reynolds has agreed to lead the research division." Madison turned to him in surprise. "That's wonderful." "I want you involved too," Nathan said, finally looking at her. Your insights and experience with Ethan and Scout have been invaluable. I'd be honored to help in any way I can, Madison replied. Good, Nathan nodded, because I've taken the liberty of applying to veterinary school on your behalf. You've been accepted to the program at Cornell University with a full scholarship. Madison's mouth dropped open. You what? But I never applied. I had Lisa gather your academic records. Dr. Reynolds wrote a recommendation. Your current instructors provided glowing references. Nathan held up a hand as Madison began to protest. The scholarship is from the foundation I'm establishing, not from me personally. You can accept it without feeling like it's charity. Madison was speechless, tears forming in her eyes. Ethan's birthday is next week, Nathan continued, 6 months after Scout came into our lives. I want you there not as the employee, but as the person who saved my son's life. As Nathan spoke these words, Ethan called from across the garden, waving excitedly, Dad! Madison! Look what Scout can do! They turned to see Ethan standing stronger than he had in months, demonstrating a new trick he had taught Scout. His cheeks had color, and his voice was full of energy. Nathan watched his son with wonder in his eyes. The boy who doctors had given 6 months to live was laughing in the sunshine, planning his birthday party, and thinking about helping other sick children. As the Harrison Foundation for Animal-Assisted Therapy placed its 20th therapy dog with a terminally ill 7-year-old in Chicago, Nathan received a call from the Mayo Clinic asking to implement their program nationwide. Proof that what had started as one maid's desperate attempt to bring joy to a dying boy was evolving into a movement that would change pediatric care forever. The Harrison mansion buzzed with activity on the morning of Ethan's 3rd birthday. Months earlier, no one had dared to hope they would celebrate this day. Now the garden was transformed with colorful decorations and dog-themed banners. Madison helped Ethan dress in his favorite blue shirt while Scout watched from his bed. Are you excited for your party? Madison asked, buttoning his shirt. Ethan nodded enthusiastically. Will there be a cake for Scout too? Yes, Madison smiled. I made a special dog-friendly cake just for him. Best birthday ever, Ethan declared, reaching out to pet Scout. Madison marveled at the change in him. 6 months ago, he had been so weak he could barely lift his head. Now, though still thin, his eyes were bright with life, and his voice was strong. In the garden, Lisa directed the staff as they set up tables and chairs. Unlike the sterile, medical atmosphere that had dominated the house for so long, today everything was colorful and joyful. The decorations look wonderful, Nathan said, joining his sister. He looked more relaxed than he had in years, the constant worry lines on his forehead slightly faded. Wait until you see the cake, Lisa replied. It's shaped like Scout. Nathan laughed, a sound that had once been rare in the mansion. Ethan will love that. Dr. Johnson arrived early carrying a brightly wrapped gift. She greeted Nathan with a warm smile. I wouldn't miss this day for anything, she said. 6 months ago, I wasn't sure. She didn't finish the sentence. Nathan nodded, understanding. None of us were. Come inside for a moment before the others arrive. I'd like to speak with you privately. In Nathan's office, Dr. Johnson reviewed Ethan's latest test results. These numbers are remarkable, she said, pointing to the charts on her tablet. His white blood cell count has normalized. The cancer cells have decreased significantly. Nathan leaned forward. What exactly does that mean? Dr. Johnson took a deep breath. Nathan, based on these results, I believe Ethan is in remission. The word hung in the air between them. Remission. After nearly 2 years of fighting, after being told his son had 6 months to live, Nathan was hearing the word every cancer parent dreams of. Remission, he repeated, his voice barely audible. I want to be clear, Dr. Johnson continued carefully. This doesn't mean the cancer is gone completely, and given how aggressive his form of leukemia is, we need to continue treatments. But this is a significant milestone. Nathan stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the birthday preparations. His hands were shaking. "Are you all right?" Dr. Johnson asked. Nathan didn't turn around. "I had accepted that I was going to lose him. I had started planning," his voice broke, "and now you're telling me he might live." "Yes," Dr. Johnson said simply. "He might live a very long life." When Nathan finally turned around, tears streamed down his face. "Thank you," he said, "for everything." "Don't thank just me," Dr. Johnson replied. "Whatever combination of medical science, that dog, and Madison's care did this, it worked." By noon, the small gathering of guests had arrived. Dr. Reynolds came with research materials tucked under his arm. Rachel Williams, Madison's instructor, arrived with her husband. A few close family friends completed the group. Ethan sat in a chair decorated with balloons, Scout lying faithfully at his feet. The guests watched in amazement as the boy who had been at death's door 6 months earlier laughed and talked excitedly about his presence. During the party, Dr. Reynolds pulled Nathan aside to discuss his research ideas. "I've been reviewing the documentation Lisa and Madison have kept," he said. "The improvement in Ethan's condition correlates directly with Scout's arrival. This could be the foundation for a groundbreaking study." "What would you need to make it happen?" Nathan asked. "Funding, of course," Dr. Reynolds replied, "and access to more patients willing to try animal therapy under controlled conditions." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about this a lot. What if we created a foundation specifically for researching and implementing animal therapy for critically ill children?" Dr. Reynolds' eyes lit up. "That would be extraordinary. The medical establishment needs solid research to accept this approach widely. I could provide the initial funding," Nathan continued. "Use my connections to get hospital boards to listen. With your research expertise and Madison's practical knowledge of implementation, you could change standard treatment protocols nationwide," Dr. Reynolds finished. As they spoke, Madison helped Ethan blow out the 3 candles on his cake. Everyone clapped and cheered. "Make a wish," Lisa called out. Ethan closed his eyes tightly for a moment, then opened them with a smile. "I wish other sick kids could have dogs like Scout," he announced. The adults exchanged touched glances. Even at 3 years old, Ethan understood how special his bond with Scout was. After cake, Nathan stood up and tapped his glass for attention. The small crowd quieted. "6 months ago," he began, "we were told Ethan had 6 months to live. Today, we're not just celebrating his 3rd birthday, but also the news that he's in remission." Gasps and murmurs of joy spread through the group. This miracle, and yes, I'm using that word despite being a man of science, happened because someone cared enough to risk everything to help my son. Nathan turned to Madison, who stood nearby with Scout. "Madison saw what Ethan needed when I was too afraid to consider it. She brought Scout into our lives against my explicit instructions, knowing she could lose her job. But she did it anyway because she put Ethan's happiness above everything else." Madison blushed, uncomfortable with the attention. "Today, I'm announcing the creation of the Harrison Foundation for Animal-Assisted Therapy," Nathan continued. "We will fund research and programs to bring therapy animals to critically ill children across America. Dr. Reynolds has agreed to lead our research division." The guests applauded enthusiastically. "And Madison," Nathan turned directly to her, "I'm not only offering you job security but also a full scholarship to complete your veterinary medicine degree. I want you to eventually lead the veterinary department of this foundation." Madison's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. The party continued with renewed energy. Ethan opened his presents, delighting in each one. Scout wore a special birthday bandana and received almost as many gifts as Ethan. Later, as some guests began to leave, Dr. Johnson pulled Madison aside. "I've updated Ethan's medical file today," she said. "For the first time, I've extended his prognosis beyond a few months. Do you know how rare that is with his type of leukemia?" Madison shook her head. "It almost never happens," Dr. Johnson continued. I can't prove it scientifically, but I believe Scout gave Ethan a reason to fight when nothing else could. As the party wound down, Ethan sat in the grass with Scout, feeding him bits of his special dog cake. Nathan approached Madison, who was watching them from nearby. "Have you thought about my offer?" he asked. "It's incredibly generous," Madison replied, "but I've always made my own way. Taking such a large gift feels—" "It's not a gift," Nathan interrupted. "It's an investment in the future of the foundation. And more importantly, in children like Ethan who need someone with your insights and compassion." Madison looked at Ethan and Scout. "When you put it that way, how can I refuse?" "Excellent," Nathan smiled. "You'll start in the fall semester. Until then, you'll help me set up the foundation. We have a lot of work to do." As evening fell, the guests departed. Ethan, tired but happy, fell asleep in Nathan's arms while being carried to his room. Scout followed faithfully behind them. In the quiet of the garden, Madison and Lisa gathered decorations. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when you smuggled Scout in here?" Lisa asked with a smile. Madison shook her head. "I just wanted to bring some joy to a dying child. I never dreamed that you'd change medicine, create a foundation, get a full scholarship to vet school," Lisa teased. "That Ethan would live," Madison said simply. "That was all I hoped for." Later that night, Nathan sat alone in his office holding Dr. Johnson's official update to Ethan's medical file. The word remission was written in black and white. His son would live, and because of that miracle, countless other children might live too. As the birthday party ended and guests departed, Nathan sat alone in his office holding the updated medical report. His son might actually survive, and he knew with absolute certainty that the foundation he had just promised to create would become his life's most important work. Nathan placed the medical report on his desk and picked up his phone. It was nearly midnight, but this couldn't wait. He dialed a familiar number. "Thomas? It's Nathan Harrison. Yes, I know what time it is. I need you to clear my schedule for the next month. We're starting a foundation." In the weeks following Ethan's birthday, Nathan's vision for the Harrison Foundation took shape with remarkable speed. His business skills, which had built a tech empire, now focused entirely on creating something that could help children like Ethan. 2 weeks after the birthday party, Nathan called Madison and Lisa to his office. Spread across his desk were architectural plans. "I've purchased a building," Nathan announced, pointing to the plans. "It's 3 blocks from New England Children's Hospital. The location is perfect for what we need." Lisa leaned over the plans. "This is a huge space, Nathan." "We'll need it," Nathan replied. "The ground floor will be administration and meeting spaces. The second floor will be for training therapy animals. The third will house research facilities for Dr. Reynolds and his team." Madison studied the plans with growing excitement. "You're really doing this." "We're really doing this," Nathan corrected. "I've already filed the paperwork. The Harrison Foundation for Animal-Assisted Therapy officially exists." Over the next month, contractors worked around the clock to renovate the building. Nathan spared no expense, creating state-of-the-art facilities with the latest technology. Special rooms were designed for animal training, with medical-grade cleaning systems like those Madison had implemented at the mansion. While the building took shape, Madison received her official acceptance to Cornell University's College of Veterinary Medicine. She sat in her room staring at the letter in disbelief. "Is it real?" she asked when Lisa knocked on her door. Lisa grinned. "Very real. Nathan pulled some strings to get your application fast-tracked, but your academic record and recommendations did the rest. You earned this, Madison." "I start in the fall," Madison said, still stunned. "But what about Ethan and Scout?" "You'll come back on weekends and holidays," Lisa assured her. "And Nathan has hired a team to implement your protocols. You've created a system anyone can follow." Meanwhile, Ethan continued to improve. Though he still had regular treatments and checkups, his strength grew daily. He spent more time playing in the garden and even began simple lessons with a tutor who came to the house. Dr. Reynolds officially joined the foundation as research director, setting up protocols for a groundbreaking study. We'll track 50 pediatric cancer patients receiving animal therapy compared to traditional treatment alone, he explained during a meeting in Nathan's home office. Ethan's case will be our model. Will hospitals agree to participate? Lisa asked. Dr. Reynolds looked to Nathan. That's where your influence comes in. Many medical boards are skeptical about animal therapy for immunocompromised patients. Leave that to me, Nathan said confidently. The first major challenge arose when Nathan approached the board of directors at Boston Children's Hospital. Despite his reputation and financial influence, the meeting did not go as planned. It's simply too risky, the chief of medicine insisted. We cannot allow animals near children with compromised immune systems. The potential for infection is too great. We've developed strict protocols, Nathan argued. The hygiene standards exceed those used for human visitors. Anecdotal evidence from one child isn't enough, another board member added. We need peer-reviewed research. Nathan returned to the mansion frustrated but not defeated. He found Madison in the garden with Ethan and Scout. They said no, he told her after Ethan had gone inside for his afternoon rest. They won't even consider a trial program. What will you do? Madison asked. Nathan watched Scout trotting around the garden. Change their minds. I need documentation of everything we've done with Ethan. Every protocol, every improvement, every test result. I have all of that, Madison assured him. I've kept detailed records from day one. With Madison's records and Dr. Johnson's medical documentation, Nathan prepared a comprehensive presentation. He scheduled meetings with 3 other children's hospitals, determined to find at least one willing to try. While Nathan worked on convincing hospitals, Scout completed advanced certification training with Rachel Williams. The gentle Labradoodle learned specialized commands for working in hospital settings and with children who had various medical equipment. Scout is our ambassador animal, Nathan announced after the dog's certification ceremony. He'll represent everything the foundation stands for. By summer's end, Nathan's persistence paid off. 3 hospitals agreed to implement trial programs using the Harrison Foundation's protocols. It was a small victory, but an important beginning. As the foundation headquarters neared completion, Lisa made a life-changing decision. I'm staying in Connecticut permanently, she told Nathan over dinner. I've already contacted a real estate agent about selling my Seattle house. What about your job? Nathan asked, surprised. I've resigned, Lisa said simply. This foundation means more to me than corporate law ever did. I want to help run it. Nathan reached across the table and squeezed his sister's hand. We'd be lost without you. In late August, just before Madison was to leave for veterinary school, Dr. Johnson suggested something that both excited and worried the family. I think Ethan is strong enough to visit the children's hospital, she said during her weekly checkup. Not as a patient, but as a visitor with Scout. Nathan hesitated. Is it safe? There are a lot of germs in a hospital. Dr. Johnson smiled. That's usually my line. Yes, it's safe. His immune system has strengthened considerably. And it would mean a lot to the other children in the oncology ward to see someone who's winning his battle. The decision was made. The following Tuesday, Ethan, Scout, Nathan, and Madison visited New England Children's Hospital. Scout wore his official therapy vest, and Ethan proudly wore a miniature matching vest that Lisa had made for him. Remember what we practiced, Madison reminded Ethan as they entered the hospital. Some kids might be too sick to pet Scout, but they can still watch him do tricks. Ethan nodded seriously, holding Scout's leash tightly. I'll be careful. The visit was more emotional than any of them had anticipated. As Ethan and Scout moved from room to room in the oncology ward, parents and children alike were moved to tears. For many, seeing a child who had been as sick as their own now walking and smiling offered precious hope. One mother grabbed Nathan's arm as he passed. Your son was treated here, wasn't he? I remember seeing you last year. Nathan nodded. Yes, Ethan had the same kind of leukemia your daughter has. And he's better now? She asked, her eyes filling with tears. He's in remission, Nathan confirmed. It's been a long road. The dog, she said, watching Scout interact gently with her daughter. That's what made the difference? Scout gave him something to fight for, Nathan explained. Sometimes that's all it takes. By the end of the visit, Ethan was tired but happy. The emotional impact of seeing other children suffering as he had was balanced by the joy he'd brought them. Can we come back? He asked as they drove home. Yes, Nathan promised. This is just the beginning. That evening, exhausted from the hospital visit, Ethan fell asleep early. Nathan found Madison packing her things for Cornell. Are you nervous about starting school? He asked. Madison folded a sweater carefully. A little. It's been a while since I was a full-time student. You'll excel, Nathan said confidently, and the foundation will be here when you graduate. We're building something that will last. Madison looked up at him. When I brought Scout here, I never imagined all this would happen. I just wanted to make Ethan happy for whatever time he had left. You did more than that, Nathan said quietly. You showed me that sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't found in a laboratory. By year's end, the Harrison Foundation had grown beyond their initial expectations. The headquarters building was fully operational, with a staff of 20 people. Dr. Reynolds had begun his formal study with the first group of patients. Madison completed her first semester of veterinary school with top grades, returning on weekends to help with the foundation. Most importantly, the foundation had successfully placed 20 specially trained therapy dogs with critically ill children across the country. Early data showed promising results similar to Ethan's experience. Nathan stood at the window of his new office at the foundation headquarters, watching snow fall on the busy Boston street below. On his desk sat a photograph of Ethan and Scout taken at the foundation's opening ceremony. Beside it was a file containing the first quarterly report of their program results. The phone on his desk rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was his assistant. Mr. Harrison, I have the chief medical officer from Mayo Clinic on line 1. He's interested in implementing our program at all their children's facilities nationwide. As the Harrison Foundation placed its 20th therapy dog with a terminally ill 7-year-old in Chicago, Nathan received a call from the Mayo Clinic asking to implement their program nationwide. Proof that what had started as one maid's desperate attempt to bring joy to a dying boy was evolving into a movement that would change pediatric care forever. Nathan put down the phone, a smile spreading across his face. Mayo Clinic wanted to implement their program nationwide. It was the breakthrough they had been hoping for. 5 years later, that breakthrough had blossomed into something far greater than anyone could have imagined. On a bright spring morning, 7-year-old Ethan Harrison raced across the backyard of the family mansion, his laughter filling the air. Scout, now 8 years old with touches of gray around his muzzle, trotted faithfully beside him. "Dad, watch this!" Ethan called out. He threw a frisbee, and Scout leaped gracefully to catch it. The boy's cheeks were rosy with health, his blonde hair catching the sunlight. No one seeing him now would guess he had once been at death's door. Nathan watched from the patio, marveling at his son's energy. The fear that had once consumed him had faded, replaced by deep gratitude. Dr. Johnson, arriving for Ethan's semi-annual checkup, joined Nathan on the patio. "Look at him go," she said with a smile. "Sometimes I have to remind myself this is the same boy we nearly lost." 3 years in complete remission, Nathan replied. "Thanks to you, Madison, and Scout." Dr. Johnson shook her head. Medical science played its part, but what happened here was something special. That's why the Harrison Protocol is changing pediatric care across the country. Inside the house, Madison was reviewing files in the home office that now served as her base when not at Foundation headquarters. At 30 years old, Dr. Madison Taylor had completed her veterinary degree with honors the previous year. She now ran the veterinary division of the Harrison Foundation, overseeing the health and training of hundreds of therapy animals. "Madison!" Lisa called, entering the office with a stack of papers. "The latest research results just came in from Dr. Reynolds. The numbers are even better than we predicted." Madison took the papers eagerly. 528 patients across 117 hospitals. That's an incredible sample size. Lisa nodded. "And the improvement statistics are statistically significant in every category. Reduced anxiety, better pain management, improved immune function, shorter hospital stays. This will help convince the remaining skeptics," Madison said, scanning the results. "Dr. Reynolds must be thrilled." "He's already submitted it to 3 medical journals," Lisa confirmed. "He says this study will finally move animal therapy from alternative to standard care in pediatric oncology." Later that morning, after Dr. Johnson completed Ethan's checkup with a clean bill of health, the family gathered in the kitchen. "Everything looks perfect," Dr. Johnson told Nathan. "All his counts are normal, growth is right on track, cognitive development excellent." Ethan, sitting at the counter with Scout at his feet, beamed. "Does that mean I can start soccer in the fall?" "Absolutely," Dr. Johnson smiled. "Just like any other 7-year-old. "Did you tell them about tomorrow?" Ethan asked excitedly. Dr. Johnson laughed. "I was getting to that. The hospital is ready for the ceremony. Everything is set up for the grand opening." Tomorrow marked a special occasion, the official opening of the Ethan Harrison Animal Therapy Wing at New England Children's Hospital. What had begun as a single dog helping one child had grown into a dedicated facility where patients could interact with therapy animals in a safe, medically supervised environment. "The media will be there," Lisa reminded them. "CNN is sending a crew. This is a big moment for the foundation." "And for medicine," Dr. Johnson added. 5 years ago, most hospitals wouldn't allow therapy animals anywhere near immunocompromised patients. Now we have an entire wing dedicated to it. The next day, the Harrison family arrived at New England Children's Hospital. The entrance was decorated with balloons and ribbons. A large crowd had gathered, including hospital staff, patients and their families, media representatives, and foundation employees. Scout walked proudly beside Ethan, wearing his special therapy vest. The dog who had once been smuggled into the Harrison mansion against Nathan's wishes was now the most famous therapy dog in America. His gentle face featured in medical journals and news programs. Dr. Reynolds greeted them at the entrance. "The big day is finally here. Are you ready, Ethan?" "Yes, sir," Ethan replied politely. Though only 7, he understood the importance of the occasion. Inside, the newly constructed wing gleamed with state-of-the-art equipment. Special rooms were designed for animal interactions, with air filtration systems and sanitizing stations based on Madison's original protocols. Photos along the walls showed therapy animals working with children in hospitals across the country. The hospital director led them to the ribbon-cutting area, where chairs had been arranged for guests. Ethan sat between Nathan and Madison, with Scout at his feet. "Welcome to the opening of the Ethan Harrison Animal Therapy Wing," the director began. 5 years ago, the idea of bringing animals into a pediatric oncology ward was considered dangerous and irresponsible. Today, thanks to the Harrison Foundation, we know it can be not only safe but potentially life-saving. After several speakers, including Dr. Johnson and Dr. Reynolds, Nathan was called to the podium. He looked out at the crowd, momentarily overwhelmed by how far they had come. 5 years ago, he began, I was a father watching his son die. I had tried everything money could buy, the best doctors, the most advanced treatments, experimental protocols from around the world. Nothing worked. The audience was silent, captivated. Then Madison Taylor, who worked in our home, saw something none of the medical professionals did. She saw that my son lit up when he saw dogs on television. Against my explicit instructions, she brought a therapy dog named Scout to meet Ethan. Nathan paused, looking at Madison with gratitude. I was furious. I was terrified the dog would cause an infection that would kill my already fragile son. Instead, that dog gave Ethan something to live for. For the first time in months, my son laughed. He engaged. He wanted to live. Nathan gestured toward the new wing. This facility isn't just about animals making sick children happy, though that alone would be worth it. It's about recognizing that healing happens on many levels. The Harrison Protocol, developed from Madison's original methods, has been implemented in over 100 hospitals nationwide. The research data is clear. Patients with therapy animal interaction show improved immune function, better treatment compliance, and significantly better quality of life. Nathan stepped back from the podium. But you don't need to take my word for it. My son would like to say a few words. The crowd murmured in surprise as 7-year-old Ethan approached the microphone, Scout by his side. "Hello," Ethan said clearly, showing no fear of the large audience. "My name is Ethan Harrison. When I was 2 years old, I was very sick. The doctors said I might die." A hush fell over the crowd at the child's direct words. "Then I got Scout," Ethan continued, placing his hand on the dog's head. "He made me happy when everything hurt. He stayed with me during bad treatments. He helped me want to get better." Ethan looked out at the children in wheelchairs and hospital gowns who had been brought to the ceremony. "I know you're scared," he told them. "Being sick is scary. But the dogs here will help you be brave. They helped me." With wisdom beyond his years, Ethan concluded, "Scout saved my life. Now other dogs will save more kids. Thank you." There wasn't a dry eye in the audience as Ethan and Scout led the ribbon cutting. Afterward, they guided the first group of young patients into the new therapy wing, where other trained dogs waited to meet them. That evening, back at the Harrison mansion, the family gathered in the garden gazebo, the same spot where Ethan and Scout had first met 5 years earlier. "What a day," Lisa sighed, sinking into a chair. "The media coverage was amazing. My phone hasn't stopped ringing with calls from hospitals wanting to join the program." Madison sat on the gazebo steps watching Ethan and Scout play in the fading light. Nathan joined her, his expression thoughtful. "I've been thinking about the day you brought Scout here," Nathan said quietly. "I was ready to fire you on the spot." Madison smiled. "I was sure you would. You risked everything," Nathan continued. "Your job, your reputation, your financial security. Why? Because some things matter more than security," Madison replied simply. Ethan needed Scout. Ethan ran up to them, slightly out of breath from playing. "Tell me the story again," he requested, sitting between them. "Which story?" Madison asked, though she knew the answer. "How you brought Scout to me the first time," Ethan said. "When Dad got mad." It had become a favorite bedtime story, almost like a fairy tale to Ethan, though it was very real to the adults. As Madison began recounting the tale of secret plans and smuggling Scout into the mansion, Nathan watched his son's face. Ethan had few memories of his illness now, a blessing of childhood. To him, Scout had always been there, a constant friend and protector. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the lawn. In the distance, the lights of the Foundation headquarters building glowed, a beacon of the mission that had grown from one boy's wish for a dog. "Madison," Nathan said as she finished the story, "do you remember what Ethan said when he first saw Scout?" Madison nodded. "He said, 'Doggy.'" It was the first time he'd spoken clearly in months. "And now he gives speeches to hundreds of people," Nathan marveled. As they sat together in the growing darkness, Ethan leaned against Madison's arm, suddenly thoughtful. "The kids today at the hospital," he said. "Some of them looked really sick. Like in the pictures of me when I was little." "Yes," Madison agreed gently. "They're fighting hard battles." "But the dogs will help them," Ethan said with certainty. "Just like Scout helped me." A new therapy dog handler approached the gazebo, having arrived for a training session with Madison. The young woman listened as Ethan finished telling her how Scout had saved his life. Ethan placed his small hand on Madison's and said, "Sometimes the best medicine doesn't come from doctors or hospitals," echoing the words that now appeared on the foundation's wall, a testament to how one woman's compassion, one dog's love, and one father's willingness to embrace hope had changed countless lives beyond their own. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.